Good morning. Welcome in RNQ NIOSS classes, chapter number 7 Indian language and literature second. Richness of any culture can be seen and appreciated, but when it comes to language and literature, it to be read and hear. We have to appreciate and take pride in this particular aspect of our culture. We must make it a point to read as many books written during those times, as it will help to understand so many things that happened in those times. It will help to read more books and become familiar with so many things that are happening around us today. In this lesson, we will learn about the development of modern Indian languages and their literature. We will also read about the role played by the Christian missionaries in producing the earliest dictionaries and grammar of modern Indian languages and the manner in which these have helped in the growth of modern Indian literature. Besides this, we shall also get to know the rule of the rule of the bhakti movements and nationalism in the development of modern Indian literature. Now, discuss in objectives. After reading this lesson, you will be able to trace the development of modern Indian languages, examine the relationship between socio cultural changes in the Indian society and the literature in different Indian languages, illustrate the unity and the underlying diversity in the Indian languages and their literate, and examine the contribution of Indian languages and their literature in the renaissance of Indian society. Northern Indian languages and literature. We have already seen how language evolved in India right up to the earlier medieval period. The old Aparma, Up, Aparvarasha had taken new form in the Sham area of was in process of evolving into other forms. These languages were evolving at two levels: the spoken and the written languages. The old Brahmi script of the Ashoka days had to undergone a great change. The alphabets during Ashoka period were uneven in size, but by the time of Harsha, the latter had become of the same size and were regular, presenting the picture of cultivated hand. The studies have indicated that all scripts of present northern India's language, except that of Urdu, have had their origin old Brahmi. A long and slow process had given him this shape. If we compare this script of Gujarati, Hindu, and Punjabi, we can easily understand these changes. As the for the spoken word, there are over 200 languages or dialects spoken in Indian and present. Some are widely used, while others are limited to particular area. Out of all these, only 22 have found their way into our constitutions. A large number of people speak Hindi in its different form that include Braj Braj Bhasha and Avdi spoken in Audh region, Madhgi, and Maithili spoken around Mithila, and Rajasthani and Khadi Boli spoken around Delhi. Rajasthan is another variant or dialect of Hindi. This this significant this significant A large number of people speak Hindi in its different form that include Braj Bhasha and Avdi spoken in Earth region Bhojpuri, Magadhi and Maithili spoken around Mithila and Rajasthani and Khadi Boli is spoken around Delhi. Rajasthani is another variant or dialect of Hindi. This classification has been made on the basis of literature produced by great poets over a length of time. Thus, the language used by Sardas and Bihari has been given by name Braj Bhasha that used by Tulsidas in the Ramcharitmanas is called Avadi and the one used by Vidyapati has been termed as Maithili but Hindi as well we know it today is the one called Khadi Boli. Through Khusru has used Khadi Boli, his composition in the 13th century. Its existence use in literature began only in 19th century. It even shows some influence of Urdu. Persian and Urdu. Urdu emerged as an independent language towards the end of the 4th century AD. Arabia and Persia were introduced in India with the coming of the Turks and Mongols. Persian remained the court language for many centuries. Urdu as a language was born out of interaction between Hindi and Persian. After the Conquest of Delhi 1192, the Turkish people settled in the region. Urdu was born out of the interaction of these settlers and soldiers in the barracks with the common people. Originally, it was dialect, but slowly it's acquired the feature of former languages. When the author started using Persian script, it was further given an impetus by use in Bahmani state of Ahmednagar, Golkha, Golconda, Bijapur and Berar. Here it was even called Dashini or Dashini Shorthan. As the time passed, it became popular with the masses of Delhi. Urdu became more popular in earlier 18th century. People even wrote accounts of later Mughals in Urdu. Gradually, it achieved a status where literature, both poetry and prose, started being composed it. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, wrote poetry in it. Some of his couple have become quite well known as in Hindi and Urdu speaking areas. Urdu was given its pride of place by a large number of poets who have a left inimitable poetry was for posterity. The earliest Urdu poet is supposed to be Khusru 1253 to 1325. He started writing as a poet in the reign of Sultan Balman and was a follower of Nizamuddin Aulia. He is said to have composed 99 works on separate themes and numerous works of poetry. Among the important work composed by him and Leela Majnu and Aya I Shikandari dedicated to Alauddin Khilji among other well known as poet are Khalif Jak had Iqbal Iqbal Urdu poetry is available in his collection called Dara. His सरी जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा is sung and played at many of the national celebration in India. No army parade is considered complete without the army band playing this tune. In big Indian cities like Delhi, these are many programs in which famous singers are invited to sing nazams or ghazals written by famous poets like Ghalib, Mon, um, Buli Shah, Wari Shah, beside many others. So you can imagine how rich our language and literally culture must have been continued till today. It has enriched our lives and is central to people meeting and intermeeting with each other. Among the best best writers were people like Pandit Ratnath Shahar, who wrote the famous Fashanaha I Azad. Even in the earlier days, Munshi Premchand, who is supposed to be a doyen of Hindi literature, wrote in Urdu. Urdu has given us a new form of poem that is called Nazm. Urdu was patronized by the now Nawabs of Lucknow, who held symposium in this language. Slowly, it became quite popular. Pakistan has adopted Urdu as the state language. Development of literature during the Mughal period. There was a tremendous development in the field of literature during the Mughal times. Babur and Humayun were lovers of literature. Babur was himself a great scholar of Persian. He wrote book known as Tuzek-e Babri, which is highly esteemed by Turkish literature. Humayun got the treatise translation into Arabic. He too was a lover of learning and had established a big library. Humayun Nama tops the books written in his time. Akbar was very fond of leaning. Akbar Nama, Sur Sagar, Ram Charitra Manas are prominent among the books written during his time. Malik Muhammad Jayaz Padmavat and Keshav Ramchandrika also wrote during the same period. Jahangir greatly patronized literature. Many scholars adorned his court. He too was a scholar of high caliber and wrote his life story. During Shah Jahan times, there was known as a scholar named Abdul Hamid Lahori. He wrote Badshah Nama. The literary activity suffered during Aurangzeb times. Urdu literature started developing during the last decade of Mughal Empire. This credit goes to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and Mirza Khalid. The language of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was very simple and impressive. His composition inspired the other Urdu writer Mirza Khalid, who was a famous poet of his time. He made an important contribution to uplift Urdu poetry. There were some other writers also who took interest in Urdu poetry and enriched Urdu literature. Mauli uh, Altab, Hussain Ali Akbar, Allah, Allahabadi, and Dr. Muhammad Iqbal are some famous names. As Persian was the language of court, much of the literature produced in the period was written in Persian. Amir Khushru and Amir Hassan Dehlvi wrote superb poetry in Persian. Historians like Minhaj us Siraz and Jai Barani and Ibn Battuta, who came to India during those days, wrote accounts of rulers, important political events, and incidents in this language. In the medieval period, Persian, who adapted as a court language, several historical account, administrative manual, and aligned literature in this language have come down to us. The Mughal rulers were great patrons of learning and literature. Babur, who wrote his Tuzak autobiography in Turkic language, but his grandson Akbar got it translated into Persian. Akbar patronized many scholars. He got Mahabharata translated into Persian. Jahangir autography Tuzak-e Jahangiri is in Persian and is unique piece of literature. It is said that Noor Jahan was accomplished Persian poetess. Quite a fair amount of Persian literature has been produced by country of the Mughals. Abdul Fazl's um, Akbarnama and Ala-i-Akwari is fine piece of literature from there we got a good deal of information about Akbar and his time. Faizi wrote beautiful Persian poetry, several collection of letters of the Mughal period in Shah have come down to us. Beside shedding light on Mughals history, they indicate different style of letter writing. Another name in prose and history writing is that Chandrabhan, a writer of Shahjahan's days. Similarly, we have a work named Tabaqat Alamgiri shedding light on Aurangzeb. Badani was another writer who belonged during Akbar time in the 20th century. Iqbal wrote good Persian poetry. All this has now become a part of Indian heritage and culture. Among the noted Hindu poet poets period were Kabir, Tulsidas, Surdas and Rahim Kabir's dohas are still so popular today. While Tulsidas Ramcharitramanas has become the most scared book of the Hindus, Bihari Satsai written during Akbar reign is very famous. Alak Alankar Shekhara by Keshav Mishra was produced in Akbar courts. It was great Sanskari work on the style of writing. Akbar also got many Sanskari books like Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad translated into Persian. Hindu literature. These was a tremendous growth of religion languages like Hindi, Bengali, Assamese, Oriya, Marathi, and Gujarati during this time. In the south, Malayalam emerged as an independent language in the 14th century. The emergence of all these languages resulted in independent language in the 14th century. The emergence of all these languages resulted in the decline of Sanskrit as they came to be used as a medium through which the administrative machinery functioned. The rise of the Bhakti movements and use of these regional languages by the various sons helped in their growth and development. We have already noted the various dialects and that developed in northern and western India. Prithviraj al- already noted the various dialects that developed in northern and western India. Prithviraj Raso is supposed to the first book in the Hindi language. It is an account of exploit of Prithviraj Chauhan. In an imitation, several other roses were written. The language went on changing as the area where it was used expand. New words to express new situation, whether either coined or taken from area coming under the influence. Hindi literature looked to Sanskrit classics for guidance and Bharata Bharatnat, Bharatnatyastra was kept in mind by Hindi Hindi to Sanskrit classic for guidance. Writers during the 12th and 13th century, there started a movement in southern India that was called the Bhakti movement. As an influence reached the north, is it started largely devotion in nature. Some of the poets like uh, Tulsidas wrote poetry in language which was of that reason only, while others like Kabir, who moved from place to place, added Persian and Urdu words as well. As through it. It is said that Tulsidas wrote Ramcharitra Manas based on Valmiki Ramayanas. He also alters situation and adds quite a few new uh, scenes and situation based on folklore. For example, Sita's exile is mentioned in Valmiki's version but is not mentioned in Tulsidas' accounts. Tulsidas has defined his hero while the hero of Valmiki is human being. Hindi evolved during the upper Aparmasa state between the 17th and 8th century AD. The 14th it was characteristic as Virgatha Kala, the age of heroic poetry on the Adi Kala earlier period. It was patronized by the Rajput rulers. It is glorified cheerily and the poetry. The most famous figure from this period were Kabir and Tulsidas. In modern times, the Khadi dialects become more prominent and a variety of literature was produced in Sanskrit. Similarly, Surdas wrote in Sur Sagar in which he talked of Krishna as an infant, a young lad indulging in parks, and a young man engaged in dalliances with gopis. These poets made a deep impression on the mind of listeners. If the festival associated with Rama and Krishna have become so very popular, to credit goes to these poets. The version become the source of inspiration not only the other poet but also the painter in medieval ages. The inspired Mirabai, who sang in Rajasthani language, and Rakshan, who thought a Muslim sung in praise of Krishna. Nalanda, Nandasa was an important Bhakti poet. Rahim and Bhushan were a class apart. Their subject was not devotion but a spiritual. Bihari wrote his Satsai in 17th century. It gives us glimpse of Srinagar, love, and other roses. All the above mentioned Hindu poet exact Kabir expressed their sentiments essentially to satisfy their own devotion instincts. Kabir did not believe the institutionalized reason. He was a devote of formless God. Chanting his name was be all the and all for him. All these poets influenced the North Indian society in manner that had never happened earlier. As it easier to remember poetry than prose, they become immensely popular. During the last 150 year, many writers have contributed the development of modern Indian literature, written in a number of regional languages as well as English. One of the greatest Bengali writers, Rabindranath Tagore, became the first Indian to win the Nobel Prize for the literature Gitanjali in 1913. However, it is very only in the beginning of 19th century that Hindu prose came into as its own. uh, Bharatengu Harishchandra was one of the earliest to produce drama in Hindi, which were basically translation of texts written in Sanskrit and other languages, but set the trade. Mahavir Prasad Dwivedi was another author who wrote translators or made adoption from Sanskrit. Balmiki Chandra Chatterjee, 1838 to 94, wrote novels originally in Bangla. They come to be translated into Hindi and become very popular. Vande Matram, our national song, is an excerpt from his novel Anand Mat. Swami Dayanand contribution to Hindi can't be ignored. Originally to Gujarati and a scholar of Sanskrit, he advocated Hindi as a common language for the whole of India. He started writing in Hindi and contributed articles to journal essentially engaged in religion and social reform. Satyartha Prakash was his most important work in Hindi. Among other names who have enriched Hindi literature is that Munshi Premchand, who switched over from Urdu to Hindi. Suryakant Tripathi Nirala achieves recognition because he questioned the ortho- orthodoxies in society. Mahadevi Verma is the first woman writing in Hindi to highlight issues relating to women. Maithili Sharan Gupta is another important name. Jai Shankar Prasad wrote beautiful dramas. Hindi language makes progress in modern period. Hindi language. The development of modern language started at the end of 18th century. The main writers of this period were uh, Sadhushak Lal and Inshallah Khan, Bharatengu, uh, Bharat Tendu Harishchandra also strengthened Hindi languages. Similarly, Raja Lakshman Singh translated uh, Shakuntala into Hindi. Hindi continued to develop in adverse circumstances as office work was done in Urdu. Hindi literature. Bharatengu Harishchandra, Mahavir Prasad Dwivedi, Ramchandra Shukla and Shyam Sundar Das were the main among the prose writers of Hindi literature. Jaisankar Prasad, Maithili Sharan Gupta, Sumitra Nandan Pant, Shurikant Tripathi Nirala, Mahadevi Verma, Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, and Harivansh Rai Bachchan made great contribution to develop of Hindi poetry. Similarly, Premchandra, uh, Vrindavan Lal Verma, and Ilhar Chandra Joshi wrote novels and enriched Hindi literature. If we look at the above writers, we find that they all wrote with purpose. Swami Dayanand wrote in order to reform the Hindu society and rid of false belief and social evils. Munshi Premchand tried to draw the attention of the society to the miserable extension of the poor, and Mahadevi Verma, recipient of Padma Bhushan, the second highest civil award, highlighted the condition of women in the society. Nirala became the pioneer of awakening of modern India. Bengali, Assamese, and Uriya literature. After Hindi, the next significant literature was the one of that developed in Bengal. The Baptist Mission Press was established in Serampur near Calcutta in 1800. East India Company founded the Fort William College in the same year. It provided training to civil servants of the company in law, custom, religion, languages, and literature of India to enable them to work more efficiently. The growth of the Bhakti movement and composition of various hymns associated with uh, Chaitanya provided us stems to the development and growth of Bengali narrative poem called the Mangal Kavyans, also great popular during this period. The proponent the worship of local deities like Chandi and transport Purnalic gods like Shiva and Vishnu into household deities. In the regard, a very important landmark was achieved by William Carney, who wrote a grammar of Bengali and published an English Bengali dictionary, and also wrote books on dialogues, and story. It may be noted that grammar and dictionaries are important in the development of a literature. They guide the writers as the correctness of a sentence and also help them in finding suitable word for a particular situation and idea. Although the aim of the press run by missionaries was mainly to propagate Christian faith, but other presses run by local people helped in the flourish of non-Christian literature. Secure of pamphlets, small and big looks and journals were produced. In the meantime, education spread all through at very slow pace. But after 1835, when McCullough won the battle against Orientalists, it spread at a faster pace. In 1854 came Sir Charles Wood Despatch, and in 1857 three universities of Calcutta, Madras and Bombay were established. Beside textbook for schools and colleges, other literature were also produced. However, it was Raja Ram Mohan Roy who wrote Bengali beside English that gave impute to 820 to 1886 were two other writers of this earlier period. In addition of these, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee 1834 to 1894, Sarat Chandra Chatterjee 1876 to 1938, and R.C. Dutta are noted most important name that influenced the whole of India was that Rabindranath Tagore 1861 to 1941. Novels, dramas, short story, criticism, music and essay all followed from his pen. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for Gitanjali. However, a few things need to noted about influence of Western India, which permitted Bengal and later on the part of India up to 1800. Most of the literature produced was limited to religion or country literature. The Western influence brought the writers closer the man in street. The subject were minute. Some religion literature was also provided, but it is hardly said anything new. The final year of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century saw a new subject to nationalism being take up. Two things were seen in the new trade. The first was the love of gold, history and culture of an awareness of fact of British exploitations. The second was a clarion call for arousing the Indian to drive out of the for foreigners, both the persuasion and force. The new trade was expressed by Subramanya Bharati in Tamil and Quasi Narazu Islam in Bengali. The contribution of these two writers in arousing the nationalistic sentiments in the reader was tremendous. Their poetry was translated into other languages. Assamese, like Bengali Assamese, also developed in response to the Bhakti movement. Uh, Shankar Das, who introduced Vaishnavi in Assam, had in a growth of Assamese poetry. Even the Purnals were translated in Assamese. The earliest Assamese literature constituting in Burna's court chronicle. Sankar Dev has left several devotion poems, which people sung with rapturous pleasure. But it was only after 1827 that more interest was shown in producing Assamese literature. Two names, Lakshmi Nath Bhajrana and Padmanabha Gohin Burra, can't be forgotten from Orisha. A couple of names the worth mentioning, and these are Fakri Mohan Senapati and Radha Nath Rai, whose writing deserve considerably attention in the history of Uriya literature. The work of Upendra Bhajna 1670 to 1720 were important as they ushered a new period of Uriya literature. In Uriya, the work of um, Sarla Das are regarded as the first work of Uriya literature. Punjabi and Rajasthani literature. Punjabi is a language with several shades. It is being written in two scripts, Gurumukhi and Persian. The Gurumukhi script till the end of the 19th century was almost limited to the Adi Granth, the holy book of the Sikh. Only a small number of people tried to learn the script except the uh, Granthis who recite the holy Granth in the Gurdwaras. However, the language didn't lack literature. Guru Nanak was the first poem in Punjabi. Some other contemporary poet, mostly Sufi sants, used to sing in this language. These Sufis or their followers used in Persian script if they wanted to commit their poetry to writing in this list. The first name is that Farid. His poetry has found a place in the Adi Granth. The Adi Granth also contains poetry of the next four gurus. All this literature belonged to the 15th and 16th century. Amongst the latter gurus, the poetry of the 9th guru Tegh Bahadur has the contribution to Adi Granth. Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th guru, was educated in Patna, Bihar, where learned Persian and Sanskrit. He has compared to Shavyas in Punjabi, but these are two not a part of the Adi Granth. But it was love story of Heer and Raja, Sashi and Punnu and Shohani and Mahiwal, which gave this language in them in the earlier days. Even the story of Puran Bhakt found favor with some poet. Beautiful poem written by some known as the unknown poet have come down to us. These are being sung by local singers for the last 2 or 300 years. There are several other poetic stories which have been compared by the local. The folklore has been preserved. The most important of these here of Waris Shah. It is most popular of the earlier works. It is landmark in Punjabi poetry. Similarly, is the popularity of Buli Shah, who was Sufi sant. He has left a large number of songs. One of his popular form of composition was called Kafi. It was sung a classical musician from kafis are sung by people with great favor. In the 20th century, Punjabi had come into on. Bhai Veer Singh composed at epic name Rana Surat Singh, uh, Puran Singh, and Dr. Mohan Singh are among the best known writers. Easy short stories, poetry, novels, criticism, and all other forms of the writing have adorned the Punjabi literary scenes. Rajasthani, a dialect of Hindi, had its own part of play. The band's illiterate singers moved from place to place, uh, providing entertainment and keeping the story of heroes alive. It was from these ballads and colonial told, collected in the heroic story of Rajasthan and but them in anu- annals and antiquities of Rajasthan. But the devotional songs by Mirabai have a place of pride in the history of language as well as devotion music. Mirabai love of her Lord Krishna is sometimes too intense that is trans scared that his mundane word and transport one to the land of this singer. The development of Bhakti movement lead to rise through of the different regional languages like Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Punjabi, Kannada, Tamil and Telugu. Gujarati literature. Early Gujarati literature is available in the form of bhakti song of the 14th and 15th century. It is still follow the old tradition which is popular in Gujarati. Narsi Mehta name is the foremost in the respect. The people of Gujarat wove these devotion songs in their folk dances and the religion form often find expression in their celebration. Narmad Narmad poetry gave a fillip to the Gujarati literature. Saraswati Chandra, a novel by Govindan Ram, has become a classic and has given great impact to other writers. But probably a name that can't be forgotten is that Dr. K.M. Munshi. He was a novelist, an essayist, and historian, and has left a plethora of historical novel in this book. He exhibits his ability to fix fact with fiction. Prithvi uh, Vallabha Prithvi Vallabha is one of his finest novel. A special mention must be made of Narsi Mehta, whose songs in praise Krishna not only made him very popular figure but also made Gujarati language popular. Sindhi literature. Sindh was one of the most important center of Sufis who established khanqahs at various places. The Sufi singers with their devotional music made with language popular. The credit for creating literature in Sindhi goes Mirza Kalisha Kalish Beg and Devan Kurnal. Marathi literature. Maharashtra is situated on a plateau where a large number of local dialects were in Marathi grew out of these these local dialects. The Portuguese missionaries started using Marathi for preaching their gospel. The earliest Marathi poetry and prose is by Sant Janeshwar uh, Gyaneshwar, who lived in the 13th century. He wrote a long commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. He was the one who started the Kirtan tradition in Maharashtra. He was followed by Namdev 1270 to 1350, Gora Sina and Jana. By all these sung and popularized the Marathi language. Their songs are sung even today by the Vakari pilgrims on their way to Pandharpur. Uh, pilgr- uh, pil- Pilgrimage almost two centuries later. Eknath 1533 to 1599 came on the scene. He wrote the commentaries on the Ramayana and the Bhagavad Puran. His songs are very popular all over Maharashtra. Then came mm, Tukarama 1598 to 1650. He is supposed to be greatest bhakti poet of them all. Ramdas 1608 to 81, who was the guru of Shivaji, is the last of this Hyman writer. He was the devote of Rama. He inspired Shivaji. The closing year of the 19th century saw upsurge in the Marathi languages. It was nationalist movement that made Marathi prose popular and prominent. Bal Gangadhar Tilak 1857 to 1920 started his general Kesari in Marathi. This helped in growth of Marathi literature, but it was the role of Keshav Shat and V.S. Um, Chip, uh, Chiplunkar was no less. Hari Narayan Apate and Akarkar wrote novels which become very popular. All these prose writers made great contribution to the development of Marathi literature. The name of H.G. Uh, Salgokar is reminder for writing inspirational poetry beside the name of M.G. Ranade, K.T. Tenang, G.T. Madholkar, poet and novelist, are no less important. Um, Kashmiri literature. Kashmiri shot into literacy literary prominence when Kalhana wrote Raja Tarangri in Sanskrit, but this was in the language of the elite. For locals, Kashmiri was the popular dialect here. Also, the Bhakti movement played in its role. One Lal Red, who lived in the 14th century, was probably the first to sing to the Kashmiri language. He was a Shavit mystic after Islam spread in this area. The Sufi influence also came to be visible. Ha- Hawa Khatun, Mahzur, Jinda Khol, Nuruddin, also known as Naudid Rishi, Akhtar Muhammaddin, Sufi Ghulam Muhammad, and Dinanath Nadim wrote developed poetry in Kashmir. These people continued to the growth of the Kashmiri literature. The Western influence didn't reach Kashmiri till the end of the 19th century. In 1846, after the First Sikh War, the Durgas of Jammu became the rulers there. The Durgas were more interested in Dugri language than in Kashmiri. There were hardly any schools or education. Was widespread poverty and economic backwardness. All this owed to lack of good literature in Kashmir. Through this list of modern Indian languages can have many languages. The Constitution of India has originally about 15 languages as the national languages: Ashami, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kashmiri, Marathi, Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. Three more languages, Nepali, Manipuri, and Konkali, have been added now to the list. Uh, Role of Christian um, mission missionaries. With the coming of European to Indian, various foreign language like English, French, Dutch, and uh, mm, mm, Portuguese were introduced here, which greatly enriched Indian languages as they added many new words to their vocabulary. The the contribution of the Christian missionaries in the development of Indian literature was no less significant. First of all, they published dictionary and grammar in several local languages. The books written by them were meant for the newly arrived uh, climbers from Europe. These books helped these missionaries as much as they helped as the writers in the local languages. The, they could turn into dictionaries to find suitable word to of say the word word was grammatically correct. The second fact is the role of lithographic printing press, which was the introduced in India in the beginning of the 19th century. The foreign had established these presses for printing literature in local languages for the benefit of the new. Uh, would be convert. Therefore, the role of printing press in the development of literature can't be ignored. The third important fact is establishment of schools and colleges of by missionaries. Here, beside English, the missionaries also taught the local languages. Perhaps their aim was to spread Christianity, but they also produce a newly educated class who had a desire to read their literature. Thus, the role of missionaries can't be ignored while writing the history of Indian languages and literature. Main writer of English literature in India. Uh, in India, there were in India, there were many writers of English literature. The Indian started writing work in English after 1835, when English was made the a medium of instruction. Many Indian writers composed their literature in English. Some of them showed their interested in the field of poetry, while some other showed their keen interest in prose writing. Macaulay Madhu Maca, Macal Madhusudan Dutta, uh, Tara Dutta, Sarojini Naidu, and Rabindranath Tagore made important contribution in the field of English poetry. Surendranath Banerjee, Firoza Shah Mehta, and Jawaharlal Nehru showed interest in English prose. Uh, what you have learned about. So now discuss. Hindi was spoken by large number of people. Urdu and Persian become popular in the Mughal era. Urdu was born out of interaction between Turkish settlers and the local people. Abdul Faz, Chandrabhan, and Badyuni were famous writers in the Mughal era. Hindi literature looked to Sarkari classes classic for guidance. Bhakti poetry is a milestone in Hindi literature. Kabir, Tulsidas, and Surdas were the guiding light of Hindi literature. In the beginning of the 19th century, Hindi prose came into existence. Next to Hindi, the richest literature is that Bengali. Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chatterjee, and Sharat Chandra Chatterjee contributed in the making of Bengali literature. Assamese literature constituted by Baranji, similar in the case of with Uriya. Till the end of 19th century, Gurumukhi was limited to Adi Granth. It was the love story of Heer Ranjha which gave the language of Adam. The devotion of Sang Mirabai have the place of honor of Rajasthani language and literature. Gujarati, Sindhi, Marathi, and Kashmiri also developed their literature in due course of time. Many Indian writers composed their writing in English.